Hey everybody, we are live. Welcome to another edition of Boston Straight Shooters. I'm your host for this evening, Steve, aka Negative Ned. Frank is away on business, so we'll do our best to hold down the fort for him while he's gone. This is a show we talk about Boston sports. We talk about the Patriots, the Red Sox, the Celtics, and the Bruins. Get you guys all caught up to speed on what's going on over the last week. We were not on last week, so we have a lot to catch up on. Let me post a link so you guys can join the show, and we'll get things started. We're gonna go with we're gonna do a little hockey in a minute. As soon as I get my stuff together here, we'll do that, and then we're gonna do this. Okay. All right. Let's get things started. All right. There really is not a lot of Bruins news right now, as they're not in the playoffs, and free agency doesn't start until July 1st. So there's gonna be time to talk about them. But we had some news that came across a few hours ago, and that is that Claude Lemieux passed away today at 60 years old. Now, I don't know the exact particulars yet of his cause of death. TMZ says it was by suicide. I couldn't find any other news outlets to verify that was the case. But if that is the case, that is really sad, and we're seeing and hearing a lot more people doing this, and it's not good. It's it's not good. It's not a good. Excuse me. It's not a good place to be for people that struggle. Mental health has been an issue that's been discussed more and more frequently among athletes and celebrities and so on and so forth. And you know the mental awareness is really starting to come to the forefront, and rightfully so, because you know you would hope that people can get help before they do harm to themselves. And so uh, you know he was at the he was at the Montreal Canadiens game the other night as the flag waver there for the Canadiens and the Carolina Panthers. Excuse me. So, totally unexpected. And listen, I know that, he definitely wasn't anybody's favorite player back in the day. A real nuisance. Um, you know, one of those guys that was kind of, a little dirty, a little cheap. And, one of those guys that, when he's not on your team, you hate him, but if he's on your team, you love him. Kind of one of those things. I will say this: when the playoffs came, he was a clutch performer. He won 4 Stanley Cups. He won the Stanley Cup with Montreal in 1986, and then he won it with New Jersey in '95, winning the Conn Smythe Trophy that year. He scored 13 goals that playoff year, and then he went to Colorado and won in 2000, and then in 96. In 96, he won with Colorado, and if anybody remembers that playoffs at all, he hit Detroit Red Wing Chris Draper from behind, breaking his orbital cheek and jawbone. It sparked a big rivalry between Colorado and Detroit. Vicious rivalry. A lot of fisticuffs. The Red Wings couldn't wait to get back at him the next year. I think it was I got Darren McCarty stuck in my head. I think it was him that went after him. So that was a big that was a big, huge thing. They actually, not too long ago, they had a 30 for 30 on ESPN, and it was Claude Lemieux and Darren McCarty sat down, and they answered a bunch of questions and stuff. Uh, they shook hands, they talked about it. Uh, I don't know if Darren McCarty really ever forgave him. That's kind of hard to tell, but they did sit together and kind of clear the air or whatever, however you want to say it. But you know, after that, uh, he got traded back to New Jersey and won the Stanley Cup in 2000. So he's got 4 Stanley Cups in his belt. And, again, he's just one of those guys that, get under your skin. Uh, you know, he got known for like starting the crap and then turtling a lot. So, he he wasn't doing himself or anybody else any favors when he played. But that aside, the outside of hockey or any other sport, uh, takes precedence. People's priorities. And I'm going to jump around a half a bit here and talk about Jaron Duran, who's just came out, last year with, he's got mental issues and so forth. And you have people at ballparks, yelling stuff at him. One guy in particular, I think it was Detroit, told him to kill himself. That's out of bounds. That's uncalled for. No matter whether you like the players or not or whatever. It's one thing when you yell out, "Hey, you suck," or whatever, stuff like that. But when it gets really personal, uh, it's way out of bounds. It's uncalled for. It shouldn't be allowed. And it's easy. It's easy for me to come on here and do the negative Ned, with these guys. When we think they're bums and whatnot. But after the games are over, these guys are human beings. They're people. They have the same, not exactly the same, sure, but they have the same everyday things that we got to deal with. They got a wife, they got kids, they got cars that break down probably like we do. They have a lot of the same outside noise. They own houses, so they have maintenance and things that break. They have to fix that they got to deal with. And listen, and I'm not making excuses or anything. I just want to make sure that we are acknowledging that it's not personal. When we are spouting off as fans about our displeasure with either them, their performance, and how they are personally, and tell a guy to go kill himself. That's completely wrong. And that's not. Listen, it's entertainment, right? It's supposed to be entertaining. Unless you're getting clobbered 10-2 like today, the Red Sox. But listen, in the grand scheme of things, and in the end, it's their job. Yes, they get paid a lot of money. Yes, but it doesn't give us the right to attack them personally with those kind of comments. And so, I'm sure that Claude Lemieux heard more than his share of comments after what happened with Chris Draper in that '96 series. And nobody really knows what effect that could still have on him today. Again, he's got, family and so on and so forth. People get depressed. Sometimes they don't seek help. And, it's a sad situation. And you don't want to hear that somebody did this to themselves if it's true. And so, again, it's young people. He's only 60 years old. and there's people that are younger that are doing that, and so it's too soon, and you would hope that these people would be able to get some kind of help, and people don't they don't want to admit and they don't want help. And again, I'll go back to Jaron Duran. He didn't really say anything until last year, and who knows how long he was bottling it up. And finally, just was like, "Hey, look, I got to get this out." Nobody knows what people struggle with internally, and I don't want to rant on this too much further. But we do want to acknowledge that, it's a sad thing. What happened, if it's true, and listen, again, not everybody's favorite player, but respect for human life, and I hope he's at peace with himself and he's not suffering anymore. Because when they do things like that, they're suffering, and they're not asking for the help that they need to make it stop. So, last word on Claude Lemieux. Don't have anything else to say on that. Let's move on to. I'm torn where to go. Let's move on to the Patriots. I know the Red Sox are playing. I have a lot to say about them, but let's move on. Let's move on to the Patriots and the OTAs, the voluntary off-season team activities that they got going on here. They're voluntary, so there has been a few guys missing. Keyshawn Butte, Christian Gonzalez, notably because he's looking for a contract. Matt Collins is missing, and there's a bunch of other guys missing. I don't have the whole list in front of me, but Butte is probably didn't come because there's a whole bunch of rumors about him being traded, and I don't blame these guys for not wanting to come. Christian Gonzalez is due to make $4.8 million this year. He's looking to get paid as a top corner. The top guy just got, I don't know, 35 or 36 million a year, whatever it is, some stupid 33. I forget what the number is, but they're getting paid these big numbers, and they're gonna hold out until they get what they want. I don't blame them. I think that in the case of Booty, I'm gonna call him Booty, Keyshawn Booty. I'm not doing Booty. Sorry, I can't hurt myself over it. Sorry about that. But Keyshawn Booty, look, him and Drake may definitely have chemistry together. I don't think that they would trade him away before, hopefully finalizing the AJ Brown deal. There's all kinds of scuttlebutt about that now, about whether AJ Brown, the trade is actually going to go through. There's, you got Adam Schefter from ESPN saying that, it's a done deal, blah, blah, or whatever. And then you had Ian Rappaport, who's also now on ESPN because they bought NFL Network. And he's saying, no, it's not a done deal because they're not agreeing on the compensation because Philly wants a first-round pick. And, now you have two guys from under the same roof, and they're both doing this, right? Who's got the scoop? And I heard this mentioned on sports radio, and I think it's a no-brainer for anybody that's been paying attention that they're purposely putting out, you say this and you say that. So, so they can keep the story alive and drum up the interest and all that stuff. And, July 1st is approaching quickly now, finally. And we're going to see who's right and what's going to happen. So there's that. We're going to we will have a poll question this week about whether or not the Patriots should give up a first-round pick for AJ Brown. We may have done this already before, but we'll do it again. and I'm not gonna spill my thoughts on it yet until next week, just in case it doesn't happen, because you know, then I'll wind up eating crow like I usually do on here. So you know, we'll we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, everybody's anxious for it to go through. Um, there's a ton of scuttlebutt about Kayshon Boutte being traded after they get AJ Brown, because you have two guys playing the same position, and so we'll have to wait and see how that all goes down. I say, uh, and again, we may have also put this as a poll question before, and if we didn't, we should, whether or not the Patriots should sign Christian Gonzalez and give him a big contract. I think it's a no-brainer. He's a shutdown corner. If you watched them last year, the difference, and Frank and I talked about this, right? The difference between their defense when Christian Gonzalez is in the lineup versus when he's not in the lineup is like a complete 180. And he shuts down the best guys. And is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but he's in the top 3 to 5 cornerbacks in the league, and especially the way he performed in the Super Bowl. He's more than deserving, I think. I think that the mistake is to try to lowball him, and please don't do like the Red Sox and do like, when you did John Lester, 5 years, $100 million. Like you're gonna have to pony up 30 to 35 minimum, and you're gonna have to give him probably $100 million signing bonus. I mean, that's probably what we're gonna be looking at for this guy, and he's worth it in my opinion. Even though he had the hamstring thing last year, and he missed the first 4 games or whatever. But I'm pretty sure he played the rest of the games, right? So I would rather he misses the first 4 games and he's good for the rest of the year, because the playoffs, the end of the year, the playoffs, just December, like from Thanksgiving on, it's a push to get to the playoffs. You need him healthy. You can't, force him or, push him to play in the first 4 weeks when he's not ready. And then he has a setback, later on in the year, and then he's not available at the end when you need him the most. I think, the pulled hamstring things, and there's certain injuries I think that they really need to be smarter about as far as pushing guys. I know guys play with torn ACLs or whatever, but hamstring, he's got to run, and he's got to stay with everybody else's number one guy. And if he's not 100%, and he's only 80% or 90% even, and he can't hang with those guys, then he can't. He's not going to be available. I think earlier on in the year, you have to be more willing to let these guys heal up. If you look at what happened to Will Campbell, he got hurt later in the year. He missed the last, 3 or 4 games, and he came back in the playoffs, and he wasn't the same guy, and he might not have been 100%. But he wanted to be out there and tough it out. So, that you can always, kudos to him for trying, because in the playoffs, especially in football where it's one and done, you don't have an extra week to sit there, unless you have a bye week, and sit there and think about, okay, I'm going to take this week off and come back the next week. Well, you might get bounced. You don't have a choice. So if it's that situation, then you kind of understand that. But, I think there is a concern that maybe he's brittle a little. I get that. But to me, everybody in the NFL is at risk for being injured. All of them. You don't know who's going to go down with a torn ACL. You don't know who's going to go down with a rib injury. You don't know who's going to go down with a separated shoulder or a torn tricep. You can go through a whole season and get 160 tackles and not get a scratch on you, and not get. I'm being facetious, right? But you might not tear anything or have an injury all year long. And other times, you could get it, and I understand that the shelf life of an NFL player is like 3 to 4 years. So they're trying to get paid and maximize what they can get now. And the Patriots went to the Super Bowl. They're looking at trying to be a team that contends again for the Super Bowl, and already I would say already, and it's extremely early, but they got to be a 10 or 11 win team. They can't be 8 or 9 wins this year and regress, even though their schedule's harder. They can't regress that far back, and they need everybody. So you can't risk him holding out. And this is one thing that I would worry about. I would worry about him holding out into the season, because that never bodes well for anybody that holds out. On Frank's other show, Box Seats, we discussed it about the guys that held out. Emmitt Smith held out 1 year, missed the first 2 games, wasn't the same guy. Anybody that holds out in any sport, they're always at a disadvantage because they don't get the whole training camp, they don't get the whole exhibition season or whatever it is to get in game ready shape, and they ultimately do suffer, and they're not 100% going in, and they don't have the same success that they had before. I'm going to jump to, again, it's voluntary. So, Mike Vrabel was like, hey, I know that our defensive coaches have had conversations with Christian. I wish everybody was here so we could coach them all up. But the ones that are here, those are the ones we're going to focus on. That's the same thing Belichick used to say. And it's the same thing every coach is going to say, because what choice do they have? You can't sit there and lament about a guy sitting at home on his couch, or he's working out in Arizona, or he's not in camp. They got to put in the work with the guys that they have there that want to be there. He just says that, his professionalism and being ready to go, personal choice some guys have during the spring, he's confident that they'll be ready. So, listen, he's going to say the right things. And, we'll see what happens. Mike Vrabel spoke to the media yesterday. I don't have the full press conference here. I don't want to go through the whole thing. I just want to highlight a little bit of what they asked him about. They asked him if he planned to miss any more time. And he said, I can only tell you I'm going to be here today. I can't tell you anything other than I'm going to be out there today in full force. We all have things to deal with outside of here. My focus and excitement I have for coaches is what's important right now. And he said, anything could happen. And so my focus is on today. So, he's right. Anything can happen, because I don't know if there's any more shoes to drop with regards to him and Diana Rossini. I fear that people are still sitting on things so that they can drop it as a bombshell, especially knowing that the Patriots are playing in week 1 up in Seattle. It would not surprise me if something came out before that game during that week, just to stir the pot some more, just to make it so that everybody's going to tune into the game. And they're going to tune in anyway because of that already. They're going to cover it. They're going to talk about it. But it would not surprise me if there was 1 or 2 more nuggets come out. I think that they're really trying to capitalize and get paid for any more photos or any more, I'll call it noise now at this point, because I think people are intrigued as to, is Mike Vrabel going to be in any more hot water? Is there anything else that's going to come out that might make it so that either he has to step down as the coach or they have to fire him as the coach? And nobody should be wishing for that. I'm certainly not. I'm not wishing for any more crap to come out. I think, everybody's had their fill. I think we've said and beat it to death enough. I think it would be nice if we could just, at this point, move on to football. And again, I know it's not realistic, but that's where focus should be now. Focus should be on, what these guys look like during these drills coming up in these next mini camps that they have. I think they have the one they have now lasts through tomorrow maybe, and then they have another one next week, I think, and then the week after, something like that. They're in like 2 or 3 day spurts. So I will. I'll get the full schedule for next week, uh, for the next week's show, and we'll have the dates for everything. I didn't have time to pull it up because I was focused on what they're going through right now. I know that you know the reporting from the reporters, and I'm not going to say their names here because I don't I don't want to go into that, but you know. One reporter said Vrabel seemed like himself in the first opening practice of the spring. He was loud. He got after the players in a good-natured way during conditioning runs. Uh, you know, he was giving hands-on coaching like we saw last season. Um, they asked Milton Williams. He said, "Yep, same guy, talking bleep. He's ready to roll. He ain't changed one bit." So that's encouraging. I know that he spoke to the team, right? There's probably multiple times now that he did, and you know, I like that coming from Milton Williams, and I'm sure Drake May had some comments too. I didn't get about it, but they're focused on the work. I don't think they're focused on Vrabel. And again, you're dealing with a locker room right now. You have, when the regular season starts, you have a 53-man locker, but right now you have about 90 guys in there because you have a lot of undrafted free agents and, um, walk-on guys or whatever you want to call them. That need to get whittled down, and whoever's there, for them to have. I look at a guy like Milton Williams, who to me is a leader. It's not just the fact that he won a Super Bowl with Philly. It's he strikes me as a leadership type guy, good locker room guy, and he makes a comment like that, and to me that's we're back where we were. We're doing our stuff, and again. We're not there, so we don't know exactly. We don't know what happens when guys go off, and talk amongst themselves, or do a podcast or whatever they do now. But I think publicly, everybody's probably just going to say the right things because they want to focus on football. I'm sure they do. They don't want to talk about Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini. They don't. Excuse me. They don't need that. You're trying to. Get yourself prepared for upcoming season. You're trying to put work in, and kudos to them if they can pull that off, and hopefully, there won't be too much more garbage coming out later, and they can focus on what they need to do. It was noticed that Andrew Rupchick, who joined the Patriots practice squad last September, filled in for Vera Tucker during the 11-on-11s. He's the Vera Tucker is the offensive lineman the Patriots signed. He was on the Jets last year. That was probably by design. I think I read that he was working with the 7-on-7s and the 9-on-9s. So those drills are 11-on-11, 9-on-9, 7-on-7. Maybe they just wanted to get a look at this kid too. So they can have depth because they're going to need it. And rookie Caleb Lomu rotated in at right tackle with Morgan Moses and didn't play any snaps at left tackle. That's another thing that's been a big ongoing topic among the sports radio people, sports people here in Boston about whether or not he's going to take over for Will Campbell, right? Is he going to rotate in there? Is he going to take reps away? This and that. Now, listen, I expect that he's going to get reps over there because if he's going to be a quote-unquote swing tackle, he has to be able to fill in both spots. Now, he was, I believe, a left tackle mostly in college. So he already knows left tackle early on, the very beginning. If he's going to be playing more right tackle, it makes sense to me personally that he would work on that side and get tutelage from Morgan Moses while he's here because he's 34, 35 years old. Could be an injury risk. He's older. My guess is he won't be here after this year. And so, you put him where you think he's going to play the most. That's what I would do early in camp, especially in these camps. And I'm sure when they have the next one or two of these camps, maybe even this camp before the week is over, they'll put him at left tackle a little bit, just to get him over there. But to me, I want to see the regular offensive line first, which means Will Campbell staying at left tackle. And I know that the talking heads are all like, well, he's going to be a left guard. They're going to kick him over and they're going to have somebody else. But that shouldn't be at the forefront for them. That shouldn't be like right now, And Mike Vrabel already said Will Campbell's the left tackle. I believe him. I don't think they should change that for right now. And listen, he's going to have tough matchups every week. The thing is, I think he can get better. And if you look at the way he played last year, except for, again, when you're going up against Myles Garrett, and what the hell is the dude's name out with the Raiders, right? And you're playing these top guys, you're going to have your hands full, all right, as a rookie. I'm sure that he's learned some things. And again, you have another year under the same coaching staff. I don't believe they lost anybody on the offensive line coaching-wise. So to me, you still have Doug Marrone in the offensive line there. And I expect that he'll get better. He was a complete 180 of what they had the year before with Gerard Mayo coaching. I think that overall, Will Campbell, did a good job. They when you have two rookies starting on the line, any line, it's going to be painful. Jared Wilson's getting kicked back to center. That's huge. He got put in a bad spot last year. Didn't complain about it. Played. Did an admirable job. Again, made mistakes. It's going to happen. They see two rookies over there. Seattle, in particular, in the Super Bowl, just, they see two rookies over there. They see blood. So, again, both guys, Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, are both going to be better for the experience they got last year. I think they will be better this year. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. And I'm looking forward to some improved line play. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. Hopefully they can all stay healthy. I like the Caleb Lomu pick. I'm not upset that they picked him. They need depth. And it's really difficult to trade for left tackles as we saw last year. And even the free agent guys that were available weren't that great. So, I like what they did. I think that, they got to be improved this year. If they regress, it's a problem, right? So we'll see. Their schedule is going to be harder. Everybody knows that. It's not a secret. But it doesn't mean they shouldn't win, 10 games minimum, maybe 11. That's my expectation for them is 10 to 11 wins. And so hopefully they'll get that. All right, let me watch the time here. Let's move on to plenty of time to talk Patriots now. They're starting, so we'll move on. We'll move on to your last place Red Sox. These guys, this is unfreaking believable with these guys. They are in a no-win situation, these guys. I can't believe, they couldn't hit the blind side of a barn up until this last week or so, right? And they got good pitching, and they couldn't win games, losing games 3-1, 3-2, whatever. And then they finally start getting hits, and finally start scoring some runs, and then the pitching collapses on them. So the previous week, they went to Atlanta, and they lost 2 of 3 there. In the second game, Wilson Contreras hit a go-ahead 2-run home run in the I want to say it was like the 7th or 8th inning, maybe, and they won the game 3-2. He's been a pleasant surprise. I think he's got 10 home runs now. he's got 8 or 10. I forget what he's got, but he's got 10 home runs and 30 something RBI. He's the only one that's really doing any damage, so to speak, as far as that goes. And some of the guys' batting averages are getting up now where they were down before. I mean, Cedar Rafaela was hitting 9th earlier in the year. Now he's hitting 287. He's hitting 2nd. So good for him. Jaron Duran was really not doing much up until the last couple of weeks. He's finally hitting over 200. He hit. I'll get to the games later on, but he hit some home runs. William Abreu's, hitting 287, 286. The third base, second base, shortstop guy they got, Isaiah Kinefalefa, I think he's hitting about pretty close to 280, 275, 280. The lineup, Nick Sogard, they called up from Worcester. He's hitting, I think he's hitting close to 300. Mickey Gasper, they called up from Worcester. He's hitting like 320. The lineup's starting to look like a regular lineup now, and hopefully find a way to continue that. But I don't hold out a lot of hope until they. It feels to me like they get housed for the driveline crap. They go back to normal hitting for a little bit, driving the ball, not going for the home runs, this and that, and then they revert. They get some wins under their belt, they revert right back. So that's just the way it looks. I can't tell you if that's what they're doing because it's probably not. We've been watching this for 2 years with Breslow and Cora. But they lose 2 of 3 in Atlanta. Then they swept Kansas City, which was encouraging, except Kansas City has a worse record than them. Again, in the first game, Wilson Contreras hit a 2-run homer in the 6th. Sonny Gray pitched a good game 6 innings, 9 strikeouts. In the second game, they pounded out 15 hits and got a 7-1 win. The third game, they won 4-3. Connolly early, 6 1/3 innings, 3 runs. Their bullpen blew it, and Durant hit a 2-run homer. Go-ahead 2-run homer in the 7th to get the W in the third game. So they get the sweep. They get some hits. They take advantage of a team that's worse than them. And then they play the Twins. And bad news. Friday night, Peyton Tolley, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, leaves with a 6-3 lead. Justin Slayton comes in, blows it up, gives up 2 2-run homers, and they lose 8-6. So they finally get runs, but then their bullpen, collapses and they can't get the W. Saturday, they're forced again to use an opener for Brian Bayo because for some reason when he starts the game, he can't get out of the first inning. Or he's a freaking head case and a half. He's a freaking nightmare. I don't even know what the hell to do with that guy anymore. He needs a stint on the IL for some mysterious injury and go down to Worcester or do something because his head is messed up. So they get the opener. Giovanni Moran gives up 2 runs. So right off the bat, they're behind the 8 ball. Bayo comes in, pitches 5 innings, gives up 2 runs. They were unearned because of an error. So this is like the 3rd or 4th start he's had where the opener comes in and then he comes in and pitches pretty decent. But they're not paying that guy $9 million a year for that. They paid him because they thought he was going to be, a top of the rotation guy. He has the stuff. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, find a way to get him together with Pedro and go find a freaking mango tree in the Dominican Republic and fix this guy's head. Do something because they're not going to survive the season like this. He can't survive. His body language every time a guy makes an error or every time he gives up some hits and some runs early in the game, he's cooked. And his catcher even came out and called him out the game before this and said, yeah, as soon as we get up to 3 runs, he was done. Like, Your own guys are calling you out, dude. You got to fix this. Whatever the case is that you got mentally needs to get rectified. So they lose that game. Sunday they play. They finally get 11 hits and 5 runs, but again the pitching lets them down. They had a 4-3 lead heading into the 6th. Some guy named Tyron Guerrero. Who the hell is this Ocean State job lot bum they just picked up? Where do you keep getting these guys from? I have no clue who this guy is. I look at his stats. He's got a 9.82 ERA. Where did he come from? Gives up 2 hits. Whitlock comes in. Gives up a double and a single. Gives up a bunch of runs. And the Twins win that game. And then, so they swept the Red Sox. And it's the first time that the Twins have swept the Red Sox at Fenway since like 1994 or some nonsense. The Red Sox offense is the worst it's been since like the 1930s. I forget the year exactly, 1932, 1934, something like that. It's insane how bad they've been. But they finally start getting hits, and now they don't get no pitching. So they are not able to put it together. The bullpen is starting to fall apart, and you got these guys. I have no clue who they are. Tuesday night, a couple nights ago, they jump out to a 2-0 lead in the first, but Ranger Suarez, who had pitched good up until this, gave up 5 runs in 5 innings, crapped out, and couldn't hold them off. The Red Sox got within 5-4, and then Guerrero came in and gave up a 2-run homer in the 8th. So they get the 7-4 lead there. And then the Sox clawed back like they always do. They have a lot of these 9th inning rallies where they claw back, they get within a run, and then they don't close it out. They can't get any more runs. Lose 7-6. Ranger Suarez, after a slow start, he had a stretch of 5 out of 6 starts where he didn't give up any runs. So he's going to have clunkers here and there, and I've heard that the ABS challenge system is messing with him because he's used to nibbling the corners. I watched a pitch he threw, and it was outside the plate by a smidge, and the umpire called it a strike, and the batter challenged it and ended up being a ball. Those are the kind of things I think that are gonna hurt him, because the pitchers. Listen, I get it when the ball's a millimeter outside the zone or a little bit outside the zone. You can understand that the ump has a wide strike zone this game, blah, blah, blah. When the freaking thing's in the other batter's box and they're calling it a freaking strike, that's the problem. That's why you have this thing is in place now. When the ball is, underneath, the guy's got to bring his 9-iron and call it a strike. Like that crap, I understand this. But these guys have to adjust to 2 things now. First, the pitch clock, now the ABS. And I love the ABS. I love the way it works. I love that, the players make the call. They tap their helmet or whatever it is they do to get the challenge. They show it on the screen. It takes 2 seconds. And I wish all the replays were the same way. It shouldn't take 20 freaking minutes to do a replay. It's freaking stupid. I think that they need to go back. They need to go way back to when they first put replay in with the NFL, when the ref would go under the hood, right? And he'd look at it for 30 seconds or a minute. And then the screen would shut off. And he's like, oh, crap, now what do I do? No, dude, you just saw this for a minute. Okay, your time's up. Done. Make the call. Every replay should be like that. But, now you watch a game, they go to the replay, they split the screen, they got freaking DraftKings commercials and this and that bull crap. And, it takes 10 minutes. Like those they have to fix those. All of them. All the sports have to fix it. They should have a time limit for what they can use and how long they can view it, and fix it and make it faster, because everything else is working. I love the friggin' pitch clock. Should have been instituted freaking 20 years ago. But the Red Sox, they lose Tuesday 7-6. Yesterday, they explode for 6 runs in the 4th. They win 8-0. They got 15 hits again. Connolly early, 7 innings pitched. No runs, 7 Ks. He's 5-2 with a 2.95 ERA. He's been their best pitcher. Him and Suarez, I think, have been their best 2 pitchers so far. Sonny Gray's been okay. He's got like 1 good start, 1 clunker. But Connolly early, I like him a lot. I think hopefully they don't ruin him. And then today, just abysmal. They lose 10-2. Peyton Toley only got through 4 2/3 innings. He had 7 strikeouts, gave up 2 runs, 94 pitches. That is a concern. For all the starters across Major League Baseball, I watch games, and the starters, they're up to 100 pitches within 5 innings, and they have to take them out. Can't even get through 5 innings. And Bayo is the worst at that. He barely goes 6-7 innings. That's definitely going to wear your bullpen down. That's why you have to have these bums coming in. And conversely, old friend Chris Sale pitched against the Red Sox today, threw 5 innings, gave up 2 runs, had 8 strikeouts. He's 8-3 now with a 2.01 ERA. He won the Cy Young Award last year, the year before. This is the old Bob Lobel. Why can't we get guys like this? Chris Sale. First, he fell off his bike. He didn't fall off his bike this week. Did the Red Sox in. And, I'm just stumped with these guys. Danny Kalum gave up 2 hits and a single to load the bases. Wiesek came in. He walked Mike Yastrzemski to force him to run. Then he gave up a grand slam, make it 7-2. Greg Wiesek, another bum. Why is this guy still here? They finally sent freaking Zach Kelly down, which I was happy to see. But the Wiesek needs to go. He's given up. What did I see? He blew 9 saves last year, and he's allowed the most inherited runners this year at 12 so far. He needs to go. I don't care what he did in the World Baseball Classic for Team Italy or whatever. I don't care if he's a Paisan. I don't care if he's Italian. He needs to go. Sorry. Dude, you're cooked. You need to go to Worcester. You need to get the hell out of here. I'm tired of watching him. The problem is this. He goes down to Worcester. I got Tyron Guerrero, Danny Kalum, Ryan Watson, Giovanni Moran, Zach Kelly. I'm like, what are the options? We don't have any more good options. We have all these freaking bums again. All these Ocean State draw block guys. I'm sick of this. And listen, I don't get. We're going to continue to beat a dead horse. We're going to continue to beat up John Henry because I don't get where he's coming from with not spending money. You have people chanting "sell the team." 2 weeks ago, we had people wearing bags on their heads, and they got taken away. And I was listening to sports radio earlier, a day or two ago, and one of the guys said, "Yeah," he says, "I was at the ballpark, and it was like 40% opposite team. I forget if it was the Twins or the Braves. It was 40% their fans, just like a few years ago when Toronto and the Dodgers were filling the seats." And we've talked about it. John Henry probably doesn't give a crap. The tickets are getting sold. Whether his team's getting booed, they're in last place. They sell tickets. They make money. What does he care? That's where I think he's at. I don't think he cares, because if he did, they would do something about it. I know they've spent money this year, but they haven't spent it on what they needed the most, which is a power right-handed hitter. For all the talk they gave us in the offseason, all the smoke blowing up the butt, I'm still disgusted listening to Sam Kennedy and freaking Craig Breslow talk. I don't want to hear either one of them talk anymore. I was talking to a friend of mine today, and I said this already. Sam Kennedy is friggin' Smithers from The Simpsons. He's basically Monty Burns' butt kisser. He's John Henry's butt kisser. He comes on, everything's all rainbows and flowers, everything's great. Dude, put a freaking sock in it. Get real. I don't trust anything that guy says. They just keep spinning the same crap over and over again. Craig Breslow, I think we can still salvage the season. Really? It's too late, dude. You blew it. You screwed up. I don't know what else to do with them. And Roman Anthony's still having a problem with his wrist. Okay. Last week his manager called him out and said it's a pain tolerance issue, and wasn't sure that it was actually the injury itself. It's just like, how much pain can you take? Basically calling him out. And then they say today he hit off a tee and during that activity was still getting pain in his wrist. So to me, they gave him a shot in there or whatever the hell they did. To me, it sounds like maybe he needs like a second opinion or an MRI, again, to make sure that there's no structural damage in there, and make sure that if it's just a sprain, okay, a sprain should be like 1 or 2 weeks tops. You know, that's what I think about that. I mean, they gotta get him back. They gotta do something. You can't let it go too much longer. You know, I hate to see him get shelved for the whole year. That would really suck. I don't want to see that. Unfortunately, they gave him the contract, which they shouldn't have done yet until he actually proved himself this whole year. That's a mistake. And I like him. I hope he's not made of glass like I put on our page. But man, he's brittle. Dude can't swing a bat without getting hurt. That's bad. Anyway, the Red Sox are 9-19 at home this year, which is the worst home record in baseball. They have won 1 of 6 series at home. So they've lost 2 out of 3 or whatever it is every series except one. They just can't get out of their own way. So I don't hold a lot of hope for them going forward. And I said this already because of the way they built the team and because we have those stupid blowhard Smithers and freaking Krusty the Clown, Craig Breslow, running the team. I'm actively rooting for them to lose because the more they lose, the more it is likely they're going to have to do something in the offseason. And I get it. There's a CBA coming at the end of the year or a lockout or whatever. So they're not going to do nothing this year. Fine. Stay in last place, tank, do whatever you want, and then fix it next year and try and do the right thing. But we're going to run out of time, so let me watch the clock. Let's move on. I want to talk about and Frank's probably glad he's not here because he's sick of talking about this, but I do want to talk about it because it's been talked about all week. Well, not all week, but most of the week, at least last week for sure, is Jaylen Brown versus Stephen A. Smith. Jaylen Brown versus Stephen A. Smith. So Jaylen Brown came out, as everybody knows, after Game 7 when the Celtics lost and said that this was his favorite season, and Stephen A. Smith went on and took exception to it and, didn't like that he said it was his favorite year. And initially, I kind of felt the same way. I'm like, how can this be your favorite year? You won a championship a couple of years ago. Like, that should be your favorite year. Anytime you win a chip and you got a championship, that should be your favorite year. I mean, I guess this is the difference between greatness and good. Jaylen Brown's a good player. He's a good player, but he's not Tom Brady level good. GOAT player. Tom Brady, what's your favorite ring? The next one. Nobody else says that. Nobody on the Celtics said it. What's your favorite championship? Well, we just won one. I want the next one. No. We lost a 3-game lead. We lost a 3-1 lead. We lost in the playoffs. This is my favorite year. So I was not a fan of that, I'll be honest. But, after reading more of the comments and understanding where he's coming from a little bit better, I get why he would say that. There's numbers of reasons for him to say that. We covered some of them. Obviously one, him kind of being the guy without Jason Tatum there most of the year, right? He's talking about watching the young guys develop. I agree with him. We watched it. We praised them. Baylor Scheinman, Hugo Gonzalez, Neemias Queta, all improved. They were all good. Scheinman early on in the year sucked. I would have gave him an F for the first, 10 to 20 games. After that, though, he was good. He definitely showed improvement. You know, um, so Stephen A. Smith took exception. Uh, what? Listen, and I didn't realize because I wasn't paying attention during the year how many times Jaylen Brown, you know, praised the team during the course of the year. Uh, in January he made a comment and said, he praised the Celtics' resiliency. He said it's a testament to our work ethic, resiliency of the head coach, and our leadership. In February he did another one. I'm proud of this group and the office and staff. Look forward to the second half. Go Seas. I didn't catch that. You know, extremely proud of the Celtics. A week or two later, and then at the end he says, "Hey, it's a great season. I'm proud of my teammates and their growth. I'm grateful to be with this group. The group is awesome. I had a fun year." So listen, I understand where he's coming from there, but I just think that the optics of it looks bad. That's why you get the sports radio people here, myself initially, Stephen A. Smith, whoever. Look at that comment after you lose and be like, "What? What are you smoking, dude?" Like, okay, take a step back and look at the big picture from 10,000 feet. I get where he's coming from, and you know what? The way social media is now, the guys have two choices. They go on there and say their piece, and a lot of basketball guys, I'm noticing a lot more basketball and football players have their own podcasts during the season or after, makes no difference, but they're having them so that they get their voice heard. I think is part of the issue. They want to feel heard, and I think that they don't just want to feel heard in front of a microphone at a press conference after a win or a loss. And maybe that's part of it. So, he was on his Twitch thing for 3 hours talking. Listen, and he has a right to say what he wants. That, I can't say he's wrong for saying something. People could say I'm wrong for saying whatever I say on here. That's, it's a given. But I do think that, you're barking up the wrong tree if you're going after Stephen A. Smith. And I want to read something that he said. And I get this too from Jaylen Brown. So this is one of the things that's a turnoff for sports radio a little bit, or these sports shows in particular, is a little bit of a turnoff. He said that where did it go? Right here. He said, you're using your platform for clickbait. So listen, everybody's trying to get clickbait. Everybody's trying to make a name for themselves. Everybody's trying to get people to watch. And listen, Stephen A. Smith is getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars for his shtick. The guys that are on sports radio around here, I'm sure, get paid for theirs. I'm not getting paid, but I wouldn't complain if somebody did paid me, right? And I'm not trying to, again, we've talked about this. I'm not trying to, the negative Ned thing is not for me to, get on like ESPN and be like Pat McAfee and have these whatever. This is for fun. It's a soapbox, so to speak, because I can't call up sports radio and sit on the phone and be on hold for freaking 2 hours to get on there for 30 seconds and then say what I want to say. So this platform here has allowed me to say what I want to an extent. And, I just think that Jaylen Brown, though, you're going after Stephen A. Smith, and he said, hey, look, Stephen A. Smith said, hey, be careful what you wish for. You want me to really stop reporting on that level. You understand the locker room, how the organization might feel about you, how the city might feel, how Jason Tatum may not feel, sneaker deals. And so he goes into a whole litany of like, almost like, hey, I have dirt on all this stuff. If you want to have a battle back and forth with me, then bring it, right? And I don't want to see any of that. And listen, Stephen A. Smith is not his first rodeo. He went after LeBron's kid, and LeBron got in his face and went after him. So what does that do? instant ratings, instant people talking. I mean, that's what you're up against. Wait till you finish playing, and you can do your own Stephen A. Smith type deal on your own show. I just think that you're gonna have to do like Jaron Duran. Jaron Duran tried to call out Michael Hawley, and then got called out and he deleted his Instagram. So you may have to ignore some of the noise for a little bit. Um, I like Jaylen Brown. He's a wicked smart guy. He improved this year. He carried the load. He did a great job. But I hate to say it this way, but it's like what's the old saying? It's like going to a gunfight with a bunch of rocks on a knife in your hand. You ain't gonna win this battle, dude. So if I was you, I would just back off and just let the talking heads do their thing, because that's all they do. They don't have anything better to do. They can't play in an NBA game the way you can. I can't either. And I'm going to criticize the Celtics when they shoot 90 million threes. Sorry, because I can't stand it. But again, like I said, they're not personal attacks, and that's the problem. You guys want to personally attack each other. You told me you wanted him to quit. Probably not a smart thing to say. But I'm hoping that this is the end of this, because I think it's a game you can't win there. You're winning the war and losing the battle, so to speak. All right, let's watch the clock. Let's get to poll questions. I want to say we only had one. Where's my yes, something I forgot to mention too. I will say congratulations to Joe Mazzulla for winning Coach of the Year. As much as I wanted to fire him after the playoffs for all those stupid threes, during the regular season, he did deserve Coach of the Year, in my opinion, given that he had no Tatum, and he had no Porzingis and no Al Horford and no the god's name is escaping me right now. Holiday, right? You lost 4 key guys, and you still finished second in the conference. And I think he did a much better job this year adjusting in the regular season. And in the playoffs, he just, after they got the 3-1 lead, he reverted back to his old self, which is unfortunate. But definitely deserved Coach of the Year, and I just want to mention that. And so that leads us to our poll question, which is, do you think Joe Mazzulla deserved to win NBA Coach of the Year? We had 100% yes and 0 no. So I think we all felt that he definitely was deserving. Now we're going to move on to the predictions. My predictions for last week, I think I inadvertently erased them. Wait a minute. Where'd it go? I think I lost them. I inadvertently erased them, so I don't have last week's predictions. So we'll go with this week's. I think this is kind of stating the obvious, but I think the Patriots will get the A.J. Brown deal finalized, but I think it'll be a day or two after the first. Everybody wants the quick, fix. I think they drag it out because that's going to keep everybody talking, keep the news cycle going, keep the speculation and rumors, keep those 2 ESPN guys doing this. So I think we'll get it, but we'll have to wait. Hopefully it'll be done before we come on next week. But I think it gets done. I say the Patriots, I say they sign Gonzalez this week coming up before we come back on. I don't think they want to have him as a holdout or piss him off. So I think he gets done. They just I've just been seeing some. I forget who just signed. Um, Safety signed, and now he's the highest paid safety by $100,000 a year. The previous guy had a 25.1 million. Now this guy's got 25.2. I think Gonzalez is going to be close to whoever the highest paid salary safety is now. So I think they do the right thing and get it done. And I'm going to say that both Caleb Durbin and Greg Weiser both get sent to Worcester this week. I think they both need to go. I didn't touch on Caleb Durbin earlier, but he's hitting like 160 or 170. I know he got a hit today, and the manager's saying that he's putting good at bats together, but he's got to do more than that. They're ruining this guy. I think the driveline thing is catching up to him. He's a single and double hitter. He's not a home run hitter. Stop making him try to use the wall. If you want to really fix him, put him back the way he was as being the rookie of the year last year. Excuse me, from Milwaukee. And I think, I think they should send him to Worcester and help him fix it. So, Durbin and Weiser to Worcester. Bye. That being said, that's it for the show. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for voting in the polls. Thank you for the commentary. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check us out on YouTube. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Or like, share, and subscribe, or however that goes. Please do it. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And we'll be back next week. See ya.